Hey everybody, what's going on? Thank you for listening to Two in the Cooler. Before we get into the episode today, don't skip, because I've got to tell you about Instacart. Instacart, best way to get your groceries in 2020. You can get some of your favorite products from some of your favorite local stores delivered right to your front door in as little as 1 hour. You can give these Instacart guys specific instructions on how to handle the produce, what type of produce you want selected. You know, if there's a loaf of bread, and you don't want your bread to be squished, or you want it to have, a certain consistency, you can tell them that. They'll take all of that into account. They'll even keep your eggs safe for you. Right now, Two in the Cooler listeners get free delivery on their first order of $35 or more. Click the link in our show notes to get that deal going for you right now. Use Instacart. It's just Matt and I today on the episode, so you're welcome. Thank you guys for listening. If you get a chance, subscribe to us on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Or subscribe, I guess you follow on social media. God, I'm getting too old for this. I don't know what the hell is up. I made myself sound like a really old man there. But yeah, follow us on Instagram and such, Twitter. I'm not doing myself any favors by keeping this going. Follow us on all that. Subscribe to YouTube and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Give us a rating. And most importantly, it would be so wonderful if you could share the podcast with the people you love, people you know. We think that they'd really appreciate it, and we know that Matt and I would really appreciate it. Thank you guys for listening. Here's the episode.
All right, folks. Here we are. Actual episode 21. 21. What's 9 plus 10? 21. You know what that is, Andy? Are you?
Yeah,
are
it's
you
like a reference.
You never got into it.
It's like a video of a kid.
Yeah. It's a Vine reference.
Oh, it's so funny. Kid can't do math.
Yep, it's a Vine reference.
Gotta love it.
Yeah, hysterical. Yep. America's future. Can't even add 9 plus 10. It's 19 for anybody who was wondering, but we are on episode 21. Lot to talk about. We're actually recording a little bit early. I want to kind of get into that right away, Andy, because since the last time people heard us, we actually haven't, I've done a lot, but it hasn't been overly long. Right. We're recording on Sunday because Andy's going on a little vacation.
Yep, going on vacation to the Adirondacks. There's this person, I guess, that my girlfriend works with that owns like a cabin in the Adirondacks. I wish I had pictures of it because I saw pictures at one point, and it's like insanely nice. Like, I don't know if these are like, if they made their money in tobacco or railroads or what, but it's like that nice of a joint. So I keep wanting to say we're going to the Appalachians, but I know
Appalachian State.
But I know we're going to the Adirondacks, even though I don't know where that is. Because obviously I don't know where anything is.
Yeah, because you're an idiot, as we've discussed.
No, I make up for it in different ways, I think. It's just geography
something like that.
And directions. I don't know. I know which way north is. North is that way.
North is that way.
No, north is that way for me.
So,
wow.
Here's a question I got for you. Because for a lot of our listeners may not know this, Zoe can actually drink you under the table.
Yeah.
Zoe is a much better drinker than you
without
are.
a doubt.
So what's the plan? It's coworkers. I thought it was family.
No, it is. It is.
So are you guys
renting it from the coworker?
Okay.
So yeah.
So you're gonna have to have a couple beers then, no?
Yep.
You're going to have to act like you can hang in there?
Yeah, which, I don't like to, honestly, like, the last time I got super drunk was at Uncle Tim's funeral. And...
Yeah, you were drunk.
And I did and said some things that night that I'm not happy about. So...
Like what? Oh, because that's the night that we went to that Halloween party,
yeah, that's right?
Yep. What did you do and say that night that you weren't happy about?
Nothing. Like, I didn't like. It was little.
I remember being.
It was little things. It wasn't anything like crazy big or whatever. But just stuff that I'm sure is. there's this one that comes to mind that I really regret, and you're gonna think I'm so stupid for regretting it because it's pretty funny, but I feel bad about it because I know that when I said it, it was like I was not in the right mind, and like it wasn't like it just wasn't like the fun tone that I kind of would have liked it with. It was just like it was more just because I was like sloppy drunk.
Yeah.
And it was this friend of yours who I consider a friend. I would consider a friend too. He was there, and he was like with this girl, and he came over to say hi to us. And I start telling this girl that he's got chlamydia. And
I remember this.
Yeah.
That's hysterical.
I know.
I do that stone cold sober. Yeah. No, that's hysterical.
And I was like, oh yeah, no, they've all got it, like this guy. And but yeah, I'm a super lightweight because I barely drink anymore, and I mean, as we all know, that's not my preferred drug of choice. So
yeah,
like yesterday, Zoe and I went out and I had like two IPAs. I don't think they were double IPAs. I want to say they were double for my ego, but I'm pretty sure they weren't. And after two, I was like, okay, this is great. Like, it was the equivalent of what, like what used to be like probably 5
15
regulars.
Jack and Cokes?
No. Well, back in the day, there was a time. I mean, there's a time for everybody, like, and mine was right when I started at Fredonia, where my tolerance for alcohol was like super high. I mean, that's what you have to do there. Like, well, it's kind of floating around in the atmosphere, so you just your body builds up a natural tolerance.
You just inhale it naturally.
Yeah. So this coming week or whatever, there's definitely going to be a lot of drinking going on, and I'm going to have to,
get pucks deep.
Yeah, I guess so. To put it one way.
No, that's the. Yeah, no, that's good stuff. I mean, you guys will have fun though. You guys will have a blast. I always have wondered that, and I'm glad that I got to bring it to like a public, whatever, like that people get to hear you discuss it, because like I know that Zoe and her family can drink. I've seen Zoe drink. And I've seen you drink.
Yeah.
So I know that there's a bit of a disparity.
There's a huge disparity, I would say. They start them young. They start them young in the Martin household. I don't know what age exactly, but all of Zoe's relatives can drink pretty damn well, and Zoe's no exception. She does, they're very talented. They're very talented people, so I feel honored that they're letting me into the inner circle, even though maybe I don't have the chops as much as they're used to.
It's a talent that I definitely appreciate. I am a big, I think that I can drink pretty well, I'd say.
Yeah.
Would you agree? Or?
Yeah, I think so, for sure.
And I had, so, I don't know if I was saying that. Oh, yeah, so I was saying this before we hopped on, just a little background. I myself had a ridiculously long weekend. Two of my buddies, or one of my good buddies, and then one of our friends, was both of their birthdays this week. Well, they're coming up Monday and Tuesday, so we kind of celebrated them this weekend. And the one thing I'll say is that it was probably bad for my body, concerning how tired I am, but it was also horrible for my bank account. That's the one thing. It's like, I have no problem. Like, if that's the worst. Like, I get it's a birthday weekend, and when you're celebrating your birthday and you have different, a lot of different friends or groups of friends, like everybody wants to celebrate at different times. So and me being just a benefactor as somebody who doesn't do a lot currently, I can go out. I can go to all of them, and you just we went out Friday night, we went out Saturday night, and we were at the beach all day today, and just the amount of money that gets spent is just ridiculous. And that's the only thing I regret. And I get kind of like you're saying, like I get bad anxiety after I drink, but I know that I can always I can always have another if I have to, so I'm never that concerned.
Yeah, but I agree. I don't like the feeling that much. Not like I used to, you know.
Yeah, no,
not
I get
to interrupt
that.
the flow.
But this is one of the stories.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm saying
it's me?
not to
You're
interrupt the flow of your story.
Yeah. So there was one story specifically that actually made me think of you. And Alex and I were the last two people like at this bar last night, and we know the bartender and kind of the guy who owns it, whatever. It's not too far. It's walking distance from our apartment. So we walked there, and we're sitting there, and the bar's closed at this point, but we're still in there. Like, because once the kitchen closes, the bar has to close because you can't order drinks without food. But if you already ordered food, you can stay there until, like, whenever the bar decides to close, I guess. So we're sitting there, and there's this kid, just the two of us, we're at the bar, and there's this kid, like, 2 bar stools away from us. And I couldn't tell how old he was. He looked kind of young, but whatever. And I had a polo on. It was a hockey polo from a hockey team that a buddy of mine used to play for, or did a stint for, I'll say, played a few games for him, the Corpus Christi Ice Rays. It's a team out of Texas. And I had this polo on, and we'd been sitting at the bar for like an hour or so already, and he was alone, just like whatever, like eating some chips and salsa. That was his food of choice. It was probably the cheapest thing on the menu, and whatever, he was drinking, and he finally looks over at me, and he's like, hey, like, I don't mean to be, like, weird, but, like, I've been sitting here for a while. And I'm like, oh, I don't care, because I like to talk to people at bars. And he's like, Corpus Christi, like, is that in Texas? And I'm like, yeah, why? And he's like, oh, like, there's this show I watch, and in one of the episodes, one of the characters makes a reference to Corpus Christi. And just out of curiosity, do you think you could guess the show?
Corpus Christi.
If you don't know it, you wouldn't have got it by now, so I'm going to tell you.
I know as soon as you say it, I'm going to know it. I'm going to be like, oh, yes, I remember that moment. But I don't want to say, oh, it sounds so familiar, because that's what people who don't know the answer say.
Yeah. Community. There's an episode of Community where I guess Annie makes a reference to lying about the fact that she lives in birthday. Yes, yes, exactly. And
God damn it, I'm getting slow.
Yeah, so he says this to me, and I'm instantly like, I love this kid, because not a lot of people watch Community or have. It's now that's on Netflix, it's becoming more popular. Thankfully. But he's like, So then we start shooting the shit, talking about Community, and I finally say to him, like, we'd only been talking for like 20 minutes at this point. I'm like, I just want to say, like, I appreciate the fact that the way that you started a conversation with me was through a Community reference, because so little people would appreciate that as much as I appreciate that. I was like, my brother had and has since given to me, actually has a stuffed animal of the Greendale human being.
That's right.
Like, yeah. And, so whatever, we start talking about it, and then, like, we just start talking, we're not talking about Community anymore, and he seems like a nice kid, and he's telling me he's 21, he lives right across the street, goes to UB, blah, blah, blah. So we're chatting, and then somehow, like, drugs come up, as they do when you're sitting around bars, and, he was talking about, like, smoking weed and, like, other drugs, and we're like, yeah, whatever, like, blah, 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 shooting the shit still, like, just casual conversation, and then there was this other guy that we knew at the bar who's a great guy. His name's Craig, a little bit older, African-American man, just buys the bar shots all the time. So Craig starts buying shots, so we're taking shots, and this guy's taking them with us, and his name's Gersh. He was like Indian. He was a great kid, and randomly, like, the conversation kind of dies down, and finally the night comes to an end, and we're about to leave, and he's like, hey, like, if you guys ever around, like, and you're ever, like, I'll give you my number, text me, like, what are you guys, like, if you guys are here for a beer, like, you guys ever want to, like, come over and, like, like smoke weed, I guess. I don't really know. And then, so right as I'm about to leave, like I'm saying goodbye, I'm saying like nice to meet you, and he goes, hey man, like I don't know if it's your thing, like it's cool if it's not, but he's like, if you ever want to meet God, he's like, come over and we'll do shrooms and you'll have a whole new perspective on life. And I was like, okay. I had to walk away because I was like, what? And I said to Alex, my roommate, once we left, I said, like, Gersh ended our conversation with asking me if I ever want to meet God. And I was like, what the fuck? I had such a regular conversation with this guy. And it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm blitzed. Like, I can barely open my eyes. I'm like stumbling out of this bar. And he's like, if you ever want to meet God, man, I've got some shrooms we could do. Like, I'm like, hey, man, like, that's not my thing. But, like, more power to you. I hope you and God are real close. Like,
that's
hope
a
you guys
bad
are good buddies,
way
so.
to... I would not do mushrooms with Gersh if that's how he introduces it to you.
I was going to say, I really liked Gersh to the point where I probably would have texted him and been like, hey, you want, like, because it seemed like he was a guy who, like, just didn't have, he was at this bar alone.
Yeah.
I don't know. Seemed like he didn't really.
Well, he was
he
not
asked me if I
alone,
wanted to
man.
meet God, and to be honest.
Because God
He's
was
with God,
He's with
yes.
God, yeah.
And then like I thought back to the previous conversations that we had, and I think that actually, like looking back at it, there was a lot of things he said that had like religious undertones that I just didn't pick up on because I didn't happen to give a fuck at the time.
Uh-huh.
And now I was like, he might have came to this bar like just trying to get me to like join his church or something. Like I don't even know like what he was really talking about. I thought we were talking about like whatever, and I think he might have been on a completely different page. Like. He's like, you'll see life from a completely different perspective. Like, you'll never argue with anybody again. Like, you'll understand. And I'm like, dude, like, this is too much for me. I have to walk 1.5 miles home, and I might sleep in on somebody's sidewalk. Like, and you're asking me if I want to meet fucking God, dude? Like, I can't
right now,
this right
like
now.
this, I'm not dressed for the occasion.
I'm not. Yeah, I am not in the right headspace to be meeting God right now.
God goes,
so Gersh, I
Corpus
appreciate
Christi,
hanging
is
out
that
with
in
you,
Texas?
but to be honest, is that in Texas? You ever seen that Community episode? Yeah, it was. And then I don't know.
Yeah, that's some cult
So
stuff.
much
I
shit
think he was
happened in
trying
the
to get
past,
you to
like,
join a
72
cult,
hours.
or I wonder if he was from the Scientology building. He might have just walked on over. But cult sounds like cult status for sure.
I don't know what he was up to, but like, it was not for me at the time. It was just like I'll entertain a lot of conversations when I'm drunk. Like I will talk about anything. But he said, "Do you want to meet God?" And I was like, "Boom!" Like I am leaving this bar, Gersh. Like I am so happy that we got to meet, but you have now officially crossed into my "I don't talk about this when I'm drunk" zone. Yeah. So, yeah. I don't know. I just thought, yeah. So met Gersh. It's one thing I did this weekend, amongst many. But
wow.
Also, and this is so
man,
just previous. My roommate's like, hey, like, I'm going to go to this pool, like, my buddy's pool. You want to come? And I was like, oh, like, I don't really want to go if it's just, like, you and, like, a few guys that you know from school hanging out at a pool. Like, not that I don't, like, like doing that, but, like, I don't want to, like, crash your thing. He's like, no, it's, like, a party. And I'm like, oh, okay, like, I'll go. Like, where is it? And he's like, oh, it's, like, just, like, a few blocks up from our house. And so he tells me the location, like, on the boulevard. And in my head, I'm like, next to Chili's? And he's like, yeah, it's right next to Chili's. And I'm like, dude, right next to Chili's is an auto body shop. So he's like, yeah, like, that's where it is. And I'm like, we're going to a pool party at an auto body shop on the boulevard? Like, none of this makes any sense. So anyway, we park. He's like, yeah, just park in the Chili's parking lot. So we park in this Chili's parking lot, and behind this auto body shop is this huge, like, just fence. Like, it's just a giant fenced-in area, and you would never know driving down the boulevard. There's just, like, this humongous pool and, like, just space. And we walk back there, and it's, like, a 200-person pool party, like, music blasting, like, guy, like, on his laptop, like, he's got the tunes going, and, like, just, like, guys, girls, everywhere, people playing, like, drinking games, like, cornhole. There's a guy, he's got a smoker. There's a guy smoking pulled pork for the whole party. Like, people are jumping in the pool. It's this crazy pool party. I'm like, coronavirus, Not, I think I was obviously going to stay and drink at that point because it looked like so much fun. But I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. And two, like, why the fuck is this in the middle of the boulevard? Like, it was so crazy. And they had pizza. They had this pulled pork, delicious. I talked to the guy who was smoking it. Says he got a smoker about 7 months ago. Still perfecting his craft.
Wow.
But it was so much fun. And then from there, like, we just kept advancing our location to what ended up leading us to the Steer, and then I met Gersh. So we were definitely, it was a long day yesterday.
That's Gersh's compound, I think. That's like where his cult goes.
I woke up this morning and I was like, just shoot me in the face now. I'm done. I'm good. Gersh will help me out. He'll take me to meet God, and I don't want to do anything else. And then I'm getting like knocks on my door and phone calls like, dude, like, we're going to the beach, like, you better get up, like, you got 10 minutes. And I'm like, dude, like, I can't even, like, open my eyes. I'm like, what, do you not remember what we did, or not remember, but, like, do you not have side effects of what we did last night, and now you want me to go, and, like, I'm like, so it's been a long weekend. My brain is a little bit mush, but I'll fight through it, because I'm here for the people, and I wanted to talk to you. No guests this week. But, hey, I guess I like better sometimes when we don't have a guest on.
Yeah, me too.
Lets us shoot the shit a little bit more.
As much as I like the guests, yeah, I do like the ones that are just us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but I really like the Who Would Win of the Week this week.
This is going to be big.
I don't know if you do.
Well,
I really like it, though.
Yeah. We won't
get into it yet, but it's two characters. It's two characters that mean a lot to me.
It's going to be big.
Yeah.
One of the things that happened over these past couple days, I think it happened on Thursday, which is the day right after we record. Or maybe both of these things happened on Thursday, but I don't know if you saw this, but there's like these rumors going around that they're making another Borat right now. Have you seen this? Because that's one of your favorite movies.
I have a lot. I'm so glad you brought this up because I didn't even think about it, and I have a lot to say on this.
I really wanted to talk to you.
I don't want to cut you off. Let's get into. Yeah.
So the clip that has been going around the internet. Yeah. The clip that's been going around the internet is.
Yeah, go ahead. I didn't know if you had something else.
Is what appears to be Borat driving a truck and going
near
through
McDonald's, right?
Yeah, going through like a McDonald's drive-through. So people say this is going to be the new movie. Now, it was in the news a couple months ago that Sacha Baron Cohen has been going around shooting more stuff for his Showtime show called This Is America, which, if you haven't seen, is maybe the craziest show I've ever seen. Have you seen it, Matthew? Did I probably told you about it at some point.
You've told me about it. I've never watched it, but you've told me about it, and it sounds so explain it to them. But from what you explained to me, that I remember is it's kind of similar in the sense where he goes around and gets people who don't understand what he's doing to kind of act ignorantly. Correct?
Sure. Yeah, it's the same as like his Borat and like Bruno and stuff. It's like he's playing like these characters and stuff, interacting with people, and he's pretending to be somebody that he's not. So in the show, This Is America, he plays a couple characters. He plays like this very conservative guy, this very liberal guy. He plays like this super rich guy and all this stuff. So a couple months ago, it made news because he was shooting that, and he like crashed this concert at this county fair and got on stage and started trying to sing like this racist song or something and trying to get like people to join in or whatever. I don't know exactly what happened, and I don't know. The people that told the story on the news probably didn't know what was going on, so whatever. But so we know that he's been shooting stuff for that show again. But something like that show, that first season, there's only like 7 episodes or something. It's unbelievable. That millionaire character that he plays, there's this one time he is talking to this guy who sells yachts, like the most expensive yachts in the world, like these super high-class yachts. And he starts asking the guy these questions like, the bottom of the boat. How many girls, if we locked the girls in there, how many girls could we lock in the bottom of the boat? And the guy was not phased. Like, these are questions that he's been asked before. He's like, oh, yeah, you could probably keep like 20 to 25 in there.
Yeah,
and then he had O.J. Simpson on as that same character, and he tried to get O.J. to admit that he murdered Nicole Brown Simpson, which we all know he didn't. But it was crazy. And one of the craziest things,
because the glove didn't fit,
so you had to quit. One of the craziest things, though, was this senator from like Georgia or something, and he was like, we're gonna shoot some promos for something. This was as a different character, and the guy was like, okay, sounds good. And he got this guy to like take off his pants and like scream the N-word. It's
Jesus.
Unreal. I recommend people look it up because it's the craziest shit you're ever gonna see.
It's so funny to me that, like, even in the movie Borat, which we will get more into, but that scene when he's talking about, and I didn't know what you were going to say, but instantly when you said that he was buying a yacht, that scene when he's trying to buy the Hummer, and he's like, how fast would I have to be going to kill a gypsy in this car? And the Hummer dealership guy's like, oh, and this thing probably like 30 miles an hour will kill somebody. Like, it's a pretty big car. Like, it didn't even faze him that the guy was like, how fast do I have to be going to actually kill somebody with this vehicle? And the guy just spits out a number. Like that's a regular question that they get asked. I'll say the yacht thing is a little bit different because, as we all know, everybody with money in this world that has like a lot of money and is a public figure apparently like sells children and stuff like that.
This was pre-Epstein list, so I wouldn't be. But that's the kind of like yacht selling that we're dealing with here.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, you're like, these people have so much money, and I'm gonna make so much money off of them.
Right.
I don't really care what they're doing with the boat. I guess it's probably those people's theory, which is why the show is called This Is America and why the shit in it is so fucked up. But it also, like, from a perspective of sitting back and watching it happen, it's quite hysterical. They make, like,
these pillow pets
I'm sure
with
some people
guns
are
in them
offended
for
by,
kids. It's so funny.
Real guns?
They get
so
like some guy. I don't remember. I don't remember what
yeah.
office he holds, but he gets some guy to like really, really try and push this program that gets like stuffed animals with like guns built into them for like preschool kids. It's incredible.
So now let's get into Borat, if that's okay. Borat 2. Do you have anything?
No, I was just setting the scene because I wonder like. We know he's shooting this stuff, so maybe it's got something to do with Borat, but there's no way that he would do Borat on that show. And that's the first thing I want to say even is like, why would you do a second Borat? Because Borat, like, everybody knows Borat. Maybe there's some people who are like, you know, very wealthy.
I bet you there's a lot of people that don't know Borat.
Okay, but like McDonald's, everybody who works at or goes to McDonald's knows who Borat is. Let's be real.
I hope so. If they don't, then they should culture themselves. But here's my thing with the second Borat is, if you watch Borat, and like I think it's funny, right? Like I enjoy that type of humor. That's off-color, like dark, like not dark, but like very like edgy humor.
It gets dark sometimes, you could say.
With the way that like the world is currently. There's just no way. I can't even believe that somebody hasn't pushed to have the first Borat movie like completely erased from the earth, like not be able to like rent it anywhere, like find it on the internet. Like that movie has some jokes. When he's meeting with the comedian and he's talking about his special ed brother and his sister and how they keep him in a cage.
Oh yeah.
Like you can't talk like that. We actually sorry, I got distracted by something that's going on outside of my room. But yeah, so I can't believe that they could physically make a second Borat and put it on a screen and people would just be like, yeah, we can watch that movie or we can release that movie. Like they almost didn't release the interview.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to offend Kim Jong-un because they thought that North Korea was going to
Well, they did. They
blow
did
us
hack
up.
into Sony.
Like,
And that's what
yeah.
happened. I feel like...
And Borat's going to come out and make another movie. And
Here's what I feel like.
Like, the shit that he says is so
Yeah.
funny, don't get me wrong, but it is so bad. And in today's, like, cancel culture, everything that's going on right now, how are you going to tell me that somebody is going to produce this movie and nobody, like... I guess if you're super okay with the fact that you're going to, like, just face the repercussions, but I didn't even think that you could understand what the repercussions would be.
That's the thing. I think that, one, I don't think it's possible for Sacha Baron Cohen to get in trouble for this stuff because he's grandfathered in. And honestly, unless you are like
No, I don't think you'd get
a
in
rapist
trouble
or
for it, but I
whatever,
think that
then
people
a
would
lot
be
of times with
against
like
it.
the really bad, like offensive jokes, like Anthony Jeselnik, like that's people know that that's like his style already, and because it was established,
Yeah.
years before where we are
Beforehand,
now.
you think that?
He's like grandfathered in, like I said. But I think what you really hit on there is that I don't, and maybe I'm wrong because Borat is still honestly so popular, but it's
And it's
but
hysterical.
I still think that,
Don't forget, it's
and
probably one of the
hilarious.
funniest movies to ever be
I
made.
think that, and I also think that there's an audience for it. Like, I think that movie would make money for sure. I think that a lot of people would be very interested to see it. Like more people than maybe a movie studio would think. And I think that I think that straight up they would probably not be willing to take a risk to do that. And maybe some would, I don't know, because of how established Sacha Baron Cohen is. I don't, but I have no idea. It's the reason it's cloudy is because of the success of the first Borat. Like, if this were a new movie, it goes without saying that we would never see it. That would never get made.
Yeah. But the first Borat is so funny.
Yeah, it is hilarious.
It's hysterical.
Yeah, I just
Not.
Yeah, I just think like everything is like dictated by Twitter and stuff. So I think that the people that like would go see Borat. No, you know what? I don't know. I'm getting out of my wheelhouse here. But I feel like the people who would go see Borat are the ones that like maybe they wouldn't tweet about it. Like, I feel like the only tweets you would get about Borat are ones of people being upset about it, even if there were still a bunch of people who like really enjoyed it.
Yeah. I just think that, I don't know. I think that Borat's fucking hysterical.
Borat is hilarious.
That is
I'll
one
never
of
forget the first time I watched that movie. I was like, okay, I know this is good. Like, this will probably be pretty funny because everybody talks about it and stuff. But it's hilarious. It's a very original movie.
I still watch it. I probably watch it once a month. Like, I can't. The scene when he's singing the Kazakhstan national anthem at the rodeo in Texas.
Unreal.
In front of all those people.
Like, how do you even do that? All that stuff. It's crazy. It's so funny.
How do you stand in there and do that? How? Like, you have to have some of the fattest balls to ever exist to stand in that building and I don't know.
I guess it's just because, like, like, the reaction that you want is the one that they are giving you. Even though your life is in danger.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, them being pissed at you means that you're doing a good job. But when he was like, we will see the blood of every woman, children, and man. Like, when, like, talking about terror, it's just too much. All right, well, I think this is a good segue to get away from Borat and maybe hop into the Who Would Win of the Week.
Yeah.
Just because, unfortunately for our audience, we've both had long weekends and Andy's got to get going tomorrow, so we are going to do a little bit of a shorter episode, I would say, today. Just to expedite the process.
There's one more thing that I want to talk to you
keeping
about.
our bodies alive. And
we can talk about it after.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not Hey, folks, I'm not wrapping
I'm
this
just
up
making
at all
sure
by any
because
means,
it
but
sounds pretty
we'll
close.
Yeah, no, but we're gonna get into who would win of the week, and then we'll go from there. And then I was just, letting the people know that if you wanted us to talk for 6 hours today, it's just unfortunately, I don't think that's gonna be the case. So I would love to sit here and talk probably to myself for 6
Yeah, I'd
hours.
like that
I
too.
don't really get bored of talking. So, but yeah. So this who would win of the week that we've got this week is Benjamin Gates from National Treasure, which we've talked about plenty of time on the podcast, against the infamous Captain Jack Sparrow. So we've got two Disney movie characters going head-to-head here. Two of my favorite movie series.
Yeah.
Just two of my favorite people in general. I'll let you take us away from what you go ahead. Get involved.
I don't know. My brain is going to have to make this decision because I don't think my heart will be able to choose between these two guys for who's going to win. I will say Pirates of the Caribbean. I've said this before on Film Juice. The best way to watch, there's 5 of those movies. The best way to watch them is in reverse order. Because they get better if you do it like that.
Really?
I watched them like recently, and I watched them in reverse just for whatever reason. And I was like, I like these movies a lot better watching them backwards because that first one is so good that like that's going to be sort of your treat at the end. And that first one is amazing, and Jack Sparrow in that movie is
amazing. Alex and I tried to watch all 5 the other night at once, and we made it through the first 3 and never made it.
The third one is so fucking long. I would have given up after that one without a doubt.
Well, that's kind of like what did us in.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, my laptop's doing something funky here.
That's all
I just
right.
got.
That's what happens. That's what happens when you do a live show, folks.
Yeah. Well, I got like a. Yeah. Okay, now we're back. So, Benjamin Gates has not only stolen the Declaration of Independence, found the Templar treasure. He's found
the City of Gold.
The City of Gold.
And the President's Secret Book.
He's done things. He's done things that people could not imagine, and he's somehow still not in jail. And we have to assume that he also, since then, has found out about alien civilizations.
Yeah, for sure.
We won't get into it, but I'm just saying. No. If you look on page 47, here goes my laptop tweaking out again.
Release the third one. It's because we're talking about page 47, man. They're on to us.
Yeah, the government is yeah. They want to know what information I have on page 47 as far as the President's Secret Book goes. But you look at a guy like Captain Jack Sparrow. He was the captain of the Black Pearl, a ship that leaves no survivors. But then again, if it leaves no survivors, who's telling the stories? He's escaped Davy Jones's locker.
He's been
been a skeleton. He's been unskeletonized. He's been in jail. He's done wicked shit. And if there's one thing that you always have to remember about Jack Sparrow is that day will forever be the day that you almost captured Jack Sparrow.
Except they do capture him once.
Sorry, my laptop. I hate to interrupt this, but yeah, well, he ends up in jail a few times, or like in a place where he doesn't want to be, stranded on a desert island, whatever, a few different times. But he always gets away. Is the thing?
He always gets away.
He never actually gets.
Well, but I think that the not getting caught is such a big thing for both of these characters because they're both. I guess they're both technically doing illegal activity because Jack Sparrow's a pirate and Ben Gates is trying to save America. And so if you look at it, like you said, Ben Gates, like he never goes to jail. Jack Sparrow does end up in prison at one point, I think.
No, but he is on the run at one point in time.
Ben Gates?
Well, most of both movies, he's
Of course,
he's on
but
the
they
run.
don't.
I know he never gets caught, but it's not like. Yeah, that's. I mean, I don't know how, because he actually invites himself to the president's birthday and kidnaps the president. He's lucky that the president is such a fan of history, or else he would be in jail. But. Okay, so what do you think of who you picking? What do you got?
This is so hard. They both love adventure.
Before you decide, let me tell you is that I'm not picking who you think I would pick.
Okay. Which makes me know who you're picking. I would say that even this I don't know. But I would say that Jack Sparrow has more action being right in the middle of the shit. Even though even though his goal when he's in that shit is to find some sort of crafty means of escape and get away and let everybody else fight, he does have to fight his way out often to get to that point. So he does have more experience there. Whereas Ben Gates is really, I mean, he's cerebral. He's a planner, right? He's working things out. He's analytical. We don't see him, obviously he's fit. You got to be fit to run, and you got to be fit to kidnap the president. That's rule number one. You have to be in shape to kidnap the president. But we never see, we don't even see him with, a gun or anything. I feel like maybe he has some physical confrontation, in the second movie for a minute, but not really.
He could throw a flare.
He could throw a flare. Okay.
Yeah, he's got hands. Shaw does not have hands. Here's what I'll say.
Let me
is
ask
that
you this.
it comes, and I know my laptop is fucking freaking out. Sorry.
It's okay.
I'm listening.
So, even with obviously Ben Gates is a treasure hunter. With Jack Sparrow, he also has, a big part of those movies is procuring various items, and even finding the Fountain of Youth. So, what's more difficult to find, the Templar treasure or, a mermaid? Probably a mermaid. And and obviously Jack has, his compass and stuff, but he's still a pretty resourceful guy.
Yeah, that leads him to anything.
Yeah.
So here's what I want to say is that it comes down to a classic case of, and we've had this conversation with almost everybody that we face up, because they're all very equal matches. If you told Ben Gates a week before the fight that it was going to happen, Ben Gates, I think, would win. Because he's a meticulous planner. But if these two bump into each other on the street, Jack Sparrow plans in the moment. He plans one step behind what he's actually doing, and somehow it still works. So my final answer here, given how we usually run things, is I would like to take Jack Sparrow, because I think that unless Ben Gates knows exactly what he's getting into, which I feel like with Jack Sparrow you never know exactly what you're getting into, because he's very manipulative, right? So unless Ben Gates knows exactly what he's getting into, he's not going to have the time to plan out exactly what he wants to do, and that's only going to work to Jack Sparrow's advantage. And Jack Sparrow also has, not that Ben Gates doesn't get himself into some chaos, but Jack Sparrow lives in that chaos. If he doesn't have it, he creates it to be able to survive, right? He wants to put himself in that type of situation, right. And I think because of that, he's got more experience. I'm taking Jack Sparrow.
I'm inclined to agree with you for much of that point that you made. Jack is impulsive, and that's where he thrives. And if you take away Ben Gates's lemon juice and his, books and charts, then maybe he'll be able to spit a few facts at you for sure, but he's not going to be that good to you if he doesn't have time to explore his options and plan ahead. So that's definitely the biggest factor into why Jack Sparrow would win this fight. I have to agree. It's got to be Jack. And I think that
we've been agreeing a lot
we
lately.
have been agreeing a lot, but for the ones that you have to like really kind of think out, when they're so, like these guys are each bringing their. I mean, we just said their sort of styles are completely
different cards to the table.
Exactly. So you really have to consider all that.
Yeah.
And again, like Jack, when he completes, like he adventures because that's who he is and that's what he does. And we see even when he like completes his adventures, he's on another one again. And even if it's small, like he's still living the pirate's life, so to speak. Whereas Ben Gates, once he found that Templar treasure, he was like, I'm just going to stay in this big ass house with my wife and then get divorced and then get the house again. But whatever, you know what I mean? Like he was like, okay, I'm good. And then he only comes back. Everything is about like his reputation. Whereas Jack Sparrow could not give less of a shit about having a bad reputation for the most part, as long as people know who he is.
His reputation is built on who he is. I was saying that his reputation is built on like how shitty of a person he is, to be completely honest. But that he loves it because that people know his name. Whereas Ben Gates will go through absolutely anything to clear his 5 times over great grandfather name of
Jebediah Gates
present when the Lincoln assassination was
Jebediah Gates threw a rock at my window.
Come on,
no, he
Gates.
didn't.
Ben, listen.
I have to go on a 6-month quest.
Ben, like, get the fuck over yourself. I love you, Ben Gates.
And he
but,
is a
get
genius.
Get the fuck over yourself, buddy. Like, it's okay.
But sometimes,
without a doubt.
Sometimes I guess not being a genius is an advantage. That's a genius.
All right,
Spoken
so
like a true genius.
I guess we'll lock in Jack Sparrow winning that.
Sparrow.
But as always, we'll bring it to the internet and we'll see what the internet has to say. Because if there's one thing I know through experience is that there's a lot of passionate National Treasure fans
as there
in the
should
world.
Be. And we are. I mean, and if anybody gets on there. And because we said Jack Sparrow, if anybody questions our National Treasure fandom, you can come meet us and we'll talk about that then. Because don't you fucking dare.
A little bit of a technical side note, Andy. My laptop is freaking out right now. So I don't know what's going to be good with my local recording. It just stopped itself and I restarted it. So there might be 2 getting sent to you that have a little bit of an overlay. So sorry for the folks listening.
No
if you're just now listening to this and something sounds different, it's on me. What are you going to do? That's how we deal with the internet. And it's still freaking out. I wish that I could screen share with these people that are listening to the podcast what is going on. I need tech support over here ASAP.
What are you...
It's just freaking out. It's doing whatever it wants.
I don't want to know. I'm not going to try and solve your laptop questions right now, but like, what do you do to that thing? Because you always have problems with your laptop. We have basically the same model laptop, except yours is newer. So I don't know what the hell you did to this thing, and we don't have to get into it. But like, Jesus Christ, you're abusing it over there.
I stream a lot of sports. I illegally stream a lot of sporting events on my laptop, whether I'm on the road for hockey or whatnot, from who the hell knows where. So it was 100% my own fault. I know it was.
Interesting. All right, well.
But
that's what happens, I guess.
I'm sitting there, I'm like, how many times can I download Adobe Flash Player and give you guys my social security number? What else do I need to do to make my laptop work? But apparently I just keep having to do it.
Jesus Christ.
What was the thing that you wanted to get into?
Oh, I just thought this other thing that happened that
you said you had enough.
Was kind of cool. Was let me pull it up right quick. Oh, son of a bitch! The Nets are getting destroyed. It's Game 4 of the series. They're gonna get swept by Toronto.
Oh my gosh, they're losing to the Toronto Raptors. Who would have thought?
Look, next year's our year.
Did you think they were going to win?
No, but I mean, I always believe
it's good experience for the young players. It's good experience for the young players.
That's true. But all right, what am I doing? So this was from. You'll know what I'm talking about, but I want to get the.
Say when they suck.
You bastard! I want to pull up the exact thing here so that I could get it. Oh, this is going to be tough to find. I don't even know what it was. Maybe if I search it. So, this was a couple days ago, I think. Dave Portnoy tweeted that Barstool would be seriously interested in
yes,
the,
in buying the naming
rights for the Bills studio.
Yes, this is real.
Yeah, he said that they were, quote, very serious about buying the naming rights to the stadium.
Very, very serious, he even said.
Yeah.
So I have a few good talking points on this, just because I've had this conversation previously as my laptop continues to freak out. Do you want to start it off, or do you want?
No,
me
go
to
ahead. It sounds like you got stuff to do.
Because
Yeah.
So I looked into it a lot. One of the big things is that I think it would be awesome. But Erie County has a clause in the fact that they own the stadium, saying that nobody can own the naming rights to the stadium that might pretty much in more legal terms it says it, but that would shed a negative light upon the county. And I think that Barstool as a company, as much as if you're really a true Barstool fan and aren't somebody that's just crazily easily offended, you know that their company isn't. Yeah. But, you know what I mean? Yeah. They give just honest media. They say what the majority of people in the world think that a lot of people at this day and age will not say. So I'm a huge Barstool fan, but so I think that could, maybe interrupt negotiations between it. But what I will say is that Barstool as a company is now majority owned by Penn National Gaming. So Penn National Gaming is pretty much a gambling company, and I think that if they spun it that way, that Penn National Gaming could make a lot of money owning that stadium, and through Buffalo, continue to grow. People in Buffalo Barstool is the perfect fit. So if you're not going to be able to call it Barstool, calling it Penn National Gaming, still having a tie-in with Barstool, as well as now you have a gambling company, and this is something that happens a lot of times, especially in European soccer, we'll call it football, because that's what they call it, right? All of their facilities are affiliated with sportsbooks and have sportsbooks in their stadiums and arenas and field houses, whatever. And it's a huge revenue factor for them. And now that sports gambling is becoming more and more widely accepted and legalized, Key Bank Center did install a sportsbook through the Seneca Casino in there, and it's not quite a full-blown sportsbook, but if a company like Penn National Gaming came in to New Era and put stuff like that in there, you've been to Bills games, I think. I don't know if you have, but I've been to Bills games. They're crazy, and I've sat there and I've gambled at Bills games. They would make so much money from drunk idiots hammering the Bills, and then the Bills, whether they win or lose, they're going to win money off of what people think. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of money to be made on both sides. If there's one thing that Barstool is good at, it's finding those sort of niche ways to make revenue, right? The High Nooners, right? Those are them. Those things.
I love the High. Well,
their merchandise.
So they're just affiliated.
Right.
They don't actually.
But I'm just saying, anything that gets that they put their name on sells, and and all of their merchandise. They have. I don't know who does their merchandise or their marketing or whatever, but they come up with so much creative stuff and they make a ton of money on it. So that that would, right out the bat, it'd be huge. But you kind of said this. I think it's a match made in heaven, the Bills and Barstool. I think that it's so obvious to me as someone who I would say is a middle of the road football fan. I love watching the Bills. I don't know a ton about the NFL as a whole. I can't name like a ton of players or anything like that. So from my point of view, it's so obvious to me that the Buffalo Bills have the best fans in the entire organization, and I've always felt that way.
Like in the NFL.
Yeah. Without a doubt.
I think so,
it's
too.
So obvious.
I mean, people will argue, but as far as sheer passion goes for a team that for so long hasn't been good, thing. Bills fans actually just they give a fuck, but they don't give a fuck. They will still be there.
It's literally ride or die. Like the Bills have been, have done so poorly for our entire existence, you and I, our entire lives. Until
as of more recent, yes.
Right, they're starting to turn around, obviously, but I'm just saying, speaking generally.
The process.
And the passion has never faltered. And Bills fans do the craziest stuff. And I think that more people in recent years are starting to recognize, Bills Mafia. And Barstool was a big part of that. They post a lot of Bills content. I wonder even if they post more Bills Bills fan content than any other fan content, maybe even across any sport.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing is like that the fan base of the Buffalo Bills plays direct. I mean, it really depends. It's going to come down to the legislation and if they're going to allow. Well, I guess I don't really know how it works, but from what I've seen and done a little bit of my own research, not just based off of like what I see on Twitter, is like
for sure
it's a gray area, but I think that it would be just. If you could call it Barstool Stadium, imagine like actual Bills merchandise with a Barstool logo on it.
How much money everybody would make, man?
Barstool would make. It would be stupid.
Unbelievable. We're talking numbers here that I can't even fathom.
And from like an ownership perspective, from like a sports business perspective, like people were so against, like, I know, not to bring it back to gambling, but people were so against gambling, and finally people in the sport industry were like, why are we against gambling when we could be making so much money off of it? Barstool is a company that a lot of people still kind of are iffy on, even though they're so big, and like, you would make so much money. You would make so much money. I don't know how much Barstool would have to pay to get the stadium to be. I don't know how much the naming rights cost. I don't remember exactly how much New Era had to pay, but I mean, and you're talking exclusive Barstool content at Barstool Stadium or Penn National Gaming Stadium, whatever they're going to call it, right? Like, you're just talking about Dave Portnoy is the king of content. That is why he is where he is today, because he doesn't care. He has given up his entire personal life pretty much to just make sure that wherever he is and wherever there's an event going on, there's just cameras at all times. Like, and he's just made millions of dollars off of it. So how is that not going to continue? How is that not going to be profitable? Being surrounded by Bills Mafia, people are lighting Christmas trees on fire in parking lots. Like, they're doing just absurd shit. Like,
it's just I think that what everything comes down to, as far as whether or not, if Barstool makes a bid, if that gets approved, I think that all comes down to straight up. There's this, like you said, there's this perception of Barstool as something that a lot of people don't agree with. And I think that, personally, I think that perception is completely misguided. But also, I think that just remove yourself, if you feel that way, just remove yourself from the situation for a second and look at that company. And look at Dave Portnoy and the decisions that he's made and what they've led to. If you bet against that guy and if you bet against that company, you're a fucking idiot. You are so stupid. Let's be honest. Let's be completely honest.
Have you ever seen?
Let's say that things go as far as they can with this. Barstool is ready to buy the naming rights to the stadium, and it is up for approval against whoever needs to approve that. And then they decline it. It doesn't get approved. I guarantee you, within 10 years, Barstool is going to own a completely different stadium, affiliated with a completely different team, and it's going to be a great situation for them. So you can either miss out on it and regret it now, or you can go for it because it's gonna happen whether you're on board or not.
They're gonna do it somewhere. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Now that it's even a thought in their mind, like.
And Buffalo is the best place for it.
Yeah.
It really is.
By far. Yeah. My laptop's freaking out. Sorry to keep bringing it up, but it's driving me crazy because I'm trying to focus on one thing, and I've got, like, Siri popping up in the corner. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Last thing I'll say about it is exactly what you said. Dave Portnoy he is absolutely a narcissist. He's borderline a sociopath. Like, he's batshit crazy, but he's so good at what he does, and he's so committed to just making his, like, what he does with Barstool be so much better than anything that's ever been like that in that field. Like, have you ever seen the interview that he does where he talks about how he orders those custom bottles of champagne? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No idea.
In his office, on his desk, like, when the interview came out, he happened to have 3 of them at the time, and he didn't show the names, but he orders these custom bottles of, I believe it's Ace of Spades, like, expensive bottles of champagne. Sorry, Siri's just popped up on my screen 6 times while I tried to have that conversation. So I didn't even know. Can you hear me when I talk?
Yeah, I could hear you. You are not cutting out at all.
Okay, sorry.
Champagne.
Yeah, so he has these bottles of champagne. He custom orders them, and he gets the names of his enemies engraved in the bottles. And when he destroys his enemies, he drinks the bottle of champagne.
What?
And when I say destroy, it means, like, he, like, wants to run them to the ground. Like, he actually is a ruthless man. Like, he doesn't ever want to see anybody, like, you know, anything bad. But, like, as far as, like, their company goes, if you are a competitor of Barstool, he wants to drive you so far into the ground that you will never recover. And then he's going to pop this $10,000 bottle of champagne with your name engraved on it and drink it right in your face. Like,
man,
that's crazy.
Part of me wants to say that
but that's why he is where he is
genius.
today.
The other part of me wants to say that is some Stalin shit for sure. But I really like it. I really like that because But
if you look at how long he battled to get Barstool where it is, how long he was, like, dedicated. Actually, like, you know what I mean? And now that he's so, I love it. It's like a motivational thing to me. I'm like, that's unbelievable. I wish I had the money to buy custom bottles of champagne where I could get my enemies engraved in them. I don't know.
Trying to think of who my enemies are.
All right, well,
you know who
what do you
think?
Are
out there.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I was doing the same thing.
Well, that's a good. We'll end the show with a shout out to our enemies.
If you know who you are, I guess don't cross paths with us once we blow up, because we'll be popping bottles in your face, brothers and sisters. All right, guys. Well, episode 21. Thanks for listening. Again, it's always a nice, relaxed episode when it's just Andy and I shooting the shit. Great Who Would Win of the Week this week. Make sure you check that out. Give us your opinion. You got any closing remarks,
said
Andy?
It beautifully. Let's get out of here. I got to pack and shit, so I'll see you later.
All right, thanks, guys. Yeah, it was good. I have to go to bed. I haven't slept in 70 hours.
See ya.
Thanks, guys.